listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
We are Lions. We bring hope where it's needed, support causes that matter, change lives, change communities, change the world. Visit lionsclubs.org to learn more.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
Hi, this is Winnie from the Rosendale Seniors, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and good morning, listeners and viewers. You are tuned in to the Wednesday morning edition of the Kingston Community Radio Show. We're broadcasting live from our studios right here, 16 Lucas Avenue in Kingston, New York, on this very chilly morning. Although it is going to warm up a bit today, it's going to be better than yesterday, and tomorrow is going to be even better. And then, unfortunately, we go back in the deep freeze again.
Tomorrow will definitely be a short stay for Fred Costello, that's for sure. If he comes walking in here with shorts this morning, we might have to...
Right, go ahead and say
I don't know I'm going to be at a loss for words like the Giants announcers were.
Have his head examined?
I don't know. It said 7 in my car on the way to work. What did it say in yours?
Oh, I had 13.
No, maybe it was 9. It was pretty cold. Maybe it was 9 then. I don't know. It was cold. It was definitely cold. But I looked, and then I went and looked.
I love Sorganies. I had 12. I pulled into here.
Hey, he's got pants on. All right. Right, Fred? There's some days that you got to have pants on.
I feel like I let you guys down. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. We don't want you to get pneumonia, Fred. We want you to be here every week.
That's right, because I'm not going to be here next week.
Oh, okay. There you go. So I got an important announcement to make before you guys get going. Me and my mother, we were talking with John Martino the other day, who's the president of Lions, and when we redid the studios over on 82 John Street, we were trying to think of what year that was, and that's when we got this table and these microphones. It was 1982, so that's how old these microphones are. Now, these microphones have been taking a beat and going back and forth to Happy Christmas Fund, to all kinds of remotes.
So they're 40 years old.
They're 40 years old. Literally 40 years old, because it's 2022.
Wow.
The Lions Club on Monday night donated $3,000 to the Kingston Community Radio for new state-of-the-art boom microphones that are now, you guys are going to, I don't know what you guys are going to do. You're going to have a wide-open table because the mics, these new mics for talk radio, they come down from the ceiling. So for people like the three of us who, we project our voices a little better. Some of our guests talk a little lower, like Kevin Cahill. He doesn't have a louder voice as we do. The mic will lower if your voice, like Kevin Gilfeather, he's a little bit of in Don Williams, another host of ours. They talk a lot lower, a little more soft-spoken. The mic will get lower to your head. These mics are like very sophisticated.
Wow.
So we went and priced them out last year, but they were a little too rich for our liking. When John came in here, and we had our board meeting the other night on Monday, he's like, "Yeah, Lawrence, you guys still have these mics?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're still doing pretty good, except for that one that's right in front of Greg that's a little distorted sometimes. But they're still going strong after 40 years.
That's a pretty good run.
Yeah, so now, with the way our engineer told it, he goes, "Listen, now you don't have to worry about the host or the guest fiddling with the chords. You know, you guys don't do it. You've been here for years, but sometimes guests will come in, they get nervous, they start playing with the stuff. They don't realize it, but you know, you start teetering, you know, moving stuff, and it ends up distorting the stuff. So now you'll have this big wide open table. So technically we don't need that table because my mother is getting tired of the stuff. See how people peel the, I don't know if you can't see it, people peel the laminate. On this side, there's no, if you come around to this side, you can see they
people that sit there peel the.
Look on this side.
I know,
there's no
pieces over
laminate
here.
on this side at all.
Yeah.
The guests will peel the laminate up. I mean, sometimes I watch people do it. I'm like, he's going to peel that whole side right off before the end of his show. I can't say, sir, stop peeling the side off. I don't want to embarrass the guy. But now we're thinking about, because my mom wants to get a new table, but you can't get a new table without getting new mics. So we found a nice and a bigger table. We'd like to get a bigger table. So if we had to fit,
actually, for our show, when if all the chiefs show up at once, this table gets tight.
Yeah.
So
table, remember how you guys remember how? Well, I don't think you were in Florida. I don't know where you were that year. We moved. No, when did we move?
Didn't Bill carry this by himself?
I don't know if you were here when we moved, but Bill McKenna picked this thing up by himself, remember?
Yeah.
This thing is heavy as hell.
Yeah.
Excuse my French, but he did. He picked, I was like, damn, Bill, he's like, I got it.
Yep.
He picked it up with his pinky and started walking away. Bill McKenna is one strong
He
dude.
is a strong guy.
He is a strong dude, man.
He carried a lot of sheets of plywood.
You know, my parents have furniture that was from, like, you know, the 60s and 70s. You know, my mom has a credenza in her office with none of the stuff in it. I mean, I'm like, Mom, maybe it's time to get it. Oh, no, I like this thing. It still works. I mean, this thing's made out of steel. I mean, it's like oh, my God. Bill took it by himself.
It's bomb-proof.
Yeah, it's exactly.
That's because everything made back then was so much better in quality. Here's a good example. A microphone today lasting 40 years, you'd be
I don't know
lucky
if
they last
right,
4
highly
years.
unlikely,
Right.
I think. Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
Right. These ones. Now take it. We're buying the same brand of microphone. We're getting Shure mics. That's what these
That's
are.
a very good. That's a high
right.
quality.
That's the best
brand.
mic to get. But nowadays they recommend them. They come, and then when we're not using them, I'm like, well, isn't it going to collect dust up there? I mean, that's the air conditioner, the heat thing. They're like, no. After you're done for the day, you hit a button, and this little enclosure encloses around it. I'm like, it's like the Death Star now. You know, the mics come out when you're ready for use. They go away. I'm like, wow, that's great. And the whole thing installed is like $2,800.
Really?
The engineer, yeah, because we already have all the wires are already in that room.
Yeah.
So basically, all he has to do is take the wires that are on the floor and just run them up into that. Basically, run them up the wall and run them right into the middle, and then just hook up the box. It's a box. He's got to have to build some kind of platform in there.
I'm going to look into just one for where we have the podium, because those people maul the mics.
They do destroy the mic.
Yeah.
You talk about people with their mics. You know, we don't do it, okay? But you want to see some of the people that speak at board meetings, other events.
Oh, yeah.
They'll walk up to a microphone. It's like the microphone's intimidating, and then they'll take and they don't even properly know how to take
I'll
it
give you the
off.
magazine.
And they'll
Yeah, it's called
they gnarl it.
Broadcasting Technology. It's BRT or BTR. It's a magazine. It's for Broadcasting Supply Window is the name of it. BSW. I have plenty of magazines. I can give it to you. Yeah, they do singles. These ones are actually going to be spread out. So like where Kevin Cahill sits, that microphone will be a little over here.
So how many microphones altogether?
There's 7 of them.
$2,800. That's it.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. No. The component itself only costs $1,500 for all the mics, but to have it installed with the engineer is like another. That's the hard part. Yeah. The microphones aren't that expensive.
So those microphones that come down, recognize the volume of individuals is $1,500.
No. That piece we have already. No, if you got to get all. No, that piece we have in here already. The one that adjusts. These ones do that. Like if you sit up too close to it, it'll actually, I can see it'll actually lower the thing on the board. We already bought that piece. That it's called a Shure microphone. We bought that when we moved over here. It's called a Shure mic mixer.
Right.
That piece is another $1,200. So technically that would be $2,500. But since we have one of the pieces already, we're like, well, we might as well just go and buy the rest of the setup. So technically it would be $2,500 without the labor. So since we have one of the pieces already, it's just going to be $1,500.
That's
okay.
That is not bad at all.
No, it's not. But remember, the mics are only this big.
Yeah.
They're very tiny. You know, it's not like it's not like, the bigger mics. Like if you watch sports TV and look at Colin Cowherd or some of these guys that are on ESPN, they have those big things around them. I mean, and they sit at a desk like this. Sometimes you can't even see their face.
Yes.
We thought about getting those too, but it's better to just do this because listen, sometimes it's just going to be the two of you in there.
Mm-hmm. It's also hands-free.
Right, it's hands-free. That's the good thing about it. And Dan doesn't have to do any adjusting. That's another thing. So once it's all set up, and once the same people are on pretty much every week, So once it gets used to someone's voice, then it'll be good.
Well, that's very nice of the Kingston Lions.
Yeah,
sure
now,
is, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thank you for the Kingston Lions Club Foundation for doing that. Now, it could be until March until we get the thing installed. We're going to order it on Friday. We should have the check. Actually, the foundation's coming on tomorrow to present the check on the air tomorrow to us.
Nice.
Because Kevin Gilfeather is on with Tony Marmo tomorrow. And we'll probably order it Friday. And then it takes a couple weeks to get here. And then I think I got to call Paul Thirst, but I think he's free in the end of February, beginning of March to install it. So
cool.
Now, who's doing the presentation tomorrow?
Kevin Gilfeather. He's the president of the Kingston Lions Foundation.
Oh, and he's on anyway, right?
He's on every other month on Tony's show, yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Every year, I usually ask the Kingston Lions Foundation has to give a certain amount of money away every year because they've generated a lot of money through the course of the year, and in order for them not to get taxed, they like to give it out to locally. They like to give it out to local people, but that also has to come in within their bylaws. So we get a lot of letters from people every year, and as long as the specifications come in between their bylaws, they're usually pretty generous with giving money out. We've helped out the Kingston Foreside Nature Park, the YMCA, People's Place. We just bought them gave them some defibrillators. So last year we needed a new A10 machine for our video. They picked it up. It was like $1,200, and they bought us a new, new equipment. So this year we just, John Martino, who's the president of the club, was like, "You should ask the foundation for new mics." I was like, "Okay, I will." And I just assume these mics aren't too bad. I'm going to keep them as backup.
Oh, yeah.
Keep them probably for the Happy Christmas.
Yeah, because you're going to lose the portability once we mount it to the ceiling. That's it. Once it's mounted, it stays.
But I'm probably going to just keep this table or put this table to the side just in case we have something. What happens if there's a leak in the roof or something like that? And
something
we're going to
catastrophic.
insure them and all that.
Yeah.
But if something happens with the roof, or what happens if we move? We got to have something for backup. So I'm going to keep that table and hold on to it for now. Probably tape up those holes so no coffee or nothing gets spilled into the to the receiving end right there. Or maybe put a little box over that. I know the headphone jacks don't work anymore, but I mean that table was specifically built for talk radios.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it's crazy, 40 years and it's still working. Table and
it's
lights.
pretty good.
That's great.
What were the headphones for though? Because ever since
I bought these ones right here for $30.
Why would
the reason we don't use them is just because it's just more stuff on the table. You have that little thing. You have that little that speaker right there, and basically the only time you really need to hear anything is when someone calls in on the phone, or like a listener or a guest. Otherwise, you don't need to hear each other. You're sitting right.
We're sitting right next to each other.
So we did away with headphones. When you started, did my father ever have headphones out? I don't think we've ever used headphones.
I vaguely remember him.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be mandatory when we had before Kingston Community Radio was even around, and we used to run a real morning show. I mean, we run a real morning show now, but when we used to do one for 4 hours from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock, when we had 4 hours of one, everybody wore headphones, and the announcer sometimes would be talking into the ear like, I got a caller on line one. He's irate. You'd have two different things going on in the ears. Now we don't have that kind of traffic, or something would happen. You got a school closure. Instead of him interrupting the board operator interrupting the guest, he would be telling you something. Hey, you got something going on. And then they would announce it to the public.
Okay.
We don't have that much anymore.
No.
So.
Well, we fairly
and I
do
think
okay with visual cues.
When KCR started, these things were still $50 a pop. Now they're cheap. You can get them for $10, $15. I don't think KCR had the money to buy headphones for everyone, because then you'd have to have them for the guests too, and people throw them down just like microphones. They get broke. So I think my father did away with them, and they did with that. And I kind of like this way better.
You know where I might remember them, because on 2 or 3 different occasions, Flo Hyatt would invite me. I think over Dyson's they used it. I think maybe that's where I might have seen it, the headphones.
I thought about going back to them at Boyce Brothers for Happy Christmas Fun, because it gets so loud in there when during the overturn, like when, say, like you guys get off the air and then the police come in. I mean, you got like 15, you have people over there eating. You'll have the cops, the police are on. Then you have people that are waiting. I mean, there's so many people in that room. You're freezing cold. You got the people that work there, the people that are talking. It gets too loud in there, and sometimes you can't hear yourself think. So I think this year, well, we're going to talk about it when you come back. In March is our first meeting, but I think this year we're going to do it in here. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll cross that bridge.
We did. I think that was the only time doing our station using headphones was doing Happy Christmas Fun.
Yeah,
I think that was it.
It gets kind of loud down there. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, and I remember when I was like 20, 21, or whenever, one of my first jobs at the radio station, besides being a front desk receptionist, was to come in early and screen. I used to have to screen the phone calls in the morning for the morning show. I mean, I was set up in that little engineering room on the side, where on the side of the mailroom. I was in there with a booth with my coffee, and I mean, we used to get like, I mean, we'd have like 15 calls an hour, and some people would be disguising their voice. They were. I don't want to say anybody's names, but oh my God, it was a nightmare, and I'd have to screen calls because people would try to call on the air and get on the air every day, and some of them didn't like what was going on the radio. I mean, it was way more political than it is now, and we had a lot of politicians that were on the radio back then, and politicians would be calling in. I mean, it was. Sometimes they would be waiting at the bottom of the stairs to scream at people. I mean, it was...
Well, you also got to remember you had Walter, your father, who was very contentious.
Yeah, he was only on one day a week, though, just like he was... Yeah, he was only on one day. But some of the people that he had on, like when Flo and Orville were on, that was okay. They weren't getting too bad. I mean, there was...
now you're going way back. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, John Guerin and
we
Tom
Kerwin
had a show. They were both... Tom Kerwin had... Or no, Tom Kerwin was a... Well, at one time, John Guerin had Cahill's spot. He was actually the only one to beat him in the 16 years he's been running the show. I think John Guerin, Ray Guerin's brother, was the only one to beat Kevin Cahill, and the only time he was ever. I think he's been running unopposed, or no, I don't know if he's been running unopposed. Kevin Cahill hasn't lost in a long, long time. No. The only time he did lose was to John Guerin. He won the seat back 2 years later. But the time that he did lose, and John was on the radio, and he was very confrontational about. I liked John; he was a good guy, but he used to get into, spitting fights with.
Right in the thick of it.
I mean, they were good arguments and stuff like that, but there was a lot of confrontational stuff going on the radio all the time, and he wasn't the only one. I mean, forget who the mayor was. Oh, T.R. Gallo was the mayor then. He used to be on the radio all the time. Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't shy either.
It was we didn't have a county executive at the time. That post wasn't around. But everybody else was on the radio. Who was the DA then? Oh,
Mike Kavanaugh.
I think Kavanaugh was the DA then.
Had to been.
Yeah, Kavanaugh was the DA then. And
now we don't have a guest. I just happen to be thinking we don't have a guest at 7:35 today, do we?
Oh, we don't.
I don't believe so. I'm gonna text.
Why don't you call Bob? Is Bob still in Florida?
I'm gonna text Bill. See if he.
Text Bill McKenna, or what about Bob? What about Bob? That's a movie. Bob Circusano, is he still in Florida? I talked to him last week, and he was worried about getting down there with all the flight cancellations. Did he make it down there for the? He said he was going to some big, huge car show.
Yeah.
With 20,000 cars or whatever.
Yeah. I know, he goes all over the place.
I know. Then the week I went up there to get my car, he was in some part of Hagerstown, Maryland. He was in.
Well, that's how he got the ice cream truck.
I was like, dude, what are you doing in Hagerstown? He's like, I'm at a car show.
At one of those big shows, and he was able to get the ice cream truck.
Hagerstown? He's like, yeah, there's a good one here.
I think that's how he got the ice cream truck. That, or he found it online. But he's that's an adventure. I think he really enjoys it, and it's fun to see what he gets. Were you just at the showroom, Lawrence?
Huh?
You were just in the showroom when you picked up the car?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago today. What happened was me and Greg and Tony and Bob, we were meeting every month, regarding the Happy Christmas Fund leading up to it, seeing how and it worked because we had our best year ever. So at the end of it, I'm like, my car was 14 years old, and I wanted a brand new, similar to what Greg had, but brand new. So I put my name on the list, but the problem was they were only getting like 2 a month, and there was a big line, a list. There were people on the list before me, so obviously it was a wait list. So this was it was right before our old Savannah meet when I got my name on the list. So the end of August, right before Labor Day, I got my name on the list. So he's like, okay, well, sometime in November, you should probably be up. So Halloween came, November went. He goes, nah. He goes, they're coming in really slow. He goes, last month we only got 4. He goes, don't worry, I'll keep my eye out. So then December came, and I'm like, what's the deal? I was like, now my car's going to be 15 years old in a month. I was like, it's starting to get older. And he had already given me, we had walked through the prices on what he was going to give me for my car, the down payment. We had everything figured out. We were just waiting for the car to come in. Anyway, to make a long story short, we go to the Dallas game, and Cameron Rylance, who's the Tuesday host, tells me a similar story about him buying a car or his job or whatever the situation was. But his was through Ford, and they bought their car back in July or June, paid for it already. Okay, it was either a new Ranger or a new F-150, and they said, okay, yeah, you'll have your car by September. September came and went, whatever, October. Finally got to December. Ford called them back and said, listen, we're so sorry that you've been waiting 6 months for your car. We're going to give you a 2022 in February. It's going to be February till you get your car, but we're going to give you the same price of what we charge you for a 2021. We're going to give you a 2022. So when I heard that story in the parking lot of the Cowboy game, which is the last Giant game I went to, I went back the next day and called Bob up. I'm like, yo, can I get the same deal? Because I had put my deposit down or whatever. He's like, well, no, technically our cars are already in transit. They have already left. He goes, your car's out there. He's like, it's in a rail yard somewhere in like Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it'll be here soon. So I was like, oh, that sucks. And he goes, don't worry. He goes, I think I got something for you. He's like, just sit tight. I'm going to call you back in a day or two. Well, that was on a Monday. That was December 20th. He calls me back the next day. He goes, get your stuff, get up here. He goes, bring the title to your car. I'm like, what? He said, get up here. I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of something. He's like, well, get up here as soon as you can. I was dealing with Mike. I forget what Mike's name was. He sits when you walk in the front door, he's the first desk right there. Mike.
Isn't that Ray?
Huh?
Sal.
No, Mike, the guy with
Oh, no, Sal moved his desk.
Mike. Yeah, no, not the big office. The first little desk when you walk right in the front door. There's the big office that has his own office. This is like right out in the middle. It's not. His name is Mike. Mike Kerber. Mike Kerber is his name.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I walk in.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, who's what I've been dealing with. So Bob pulled the car aside. He had that one that's sitting out in the lot out there, 8,100 miles. It was only a 2020. He's like, listen, this lady came back in. She turned it, and she didn't like it. She wanted something bigger. I'm like, how could she not like this? I was like, the thing's in perfect condition. He's like, I'm even going to throw brand new tires on it for you. So he gave me a great deal on it. He honored the same price as what he was going to take in for the 4Runner because that had 102,000 miles on it. It was going to be 15 years old in January. So he worked out the deal, and 2 days later, I drove away with the car. I was like, sweet.
It's a good-looking car.
So it wasn't the car. No, the one I ordered was the $62,000 one with the Hemi in it and the and the big ass 22 ass rims on it and all that. But no big deal. This one's $30,000 cheaper.
It's a good-looking car.
It's a good-looking car, yeah, and it's bumper-to-bumper warranty. It's only
you can't go wrong.
Yes, technically it's a couple years old, but it doesn't even have 9,000 miles on it yet. You know what I mean? So I'm excited. It drives good. It's got heated seats. It's got everything. It's fully loaded. The only thing it didn't have that I wanted was running boards in a trailer tow package, but I'll wait till the spring and find them somewhere.
Yeah, you can put all that on afterwards.
Those heated seats, especially.
Oh, my God. And tell me they don't heat up fast.
Yeah.
I left this morning. I left Main Street, and by the time I got into the parking lot here, I stopped to get papers, I had to turn the thing off. It was so hot. I was like, my God. And the heated steering wheel, too. I've never had a heated steering wheel in a car before. That is nice having, too, because usually I got the not isotoners, but the skinny gloves I'll put on until the car gets warm. But I tell you, and I've never owned an American car before, but I love this thing, man.
You never had an American-made car before?
BMWs, whatever.
You've never owned?
I've never owned an American car.
That's pretty funny.
The first car I had when I was in high school, a 16-year-old, I had a 79 Chevette, but, that thing blew up before Christmas, you know what I mean? That lasted 4 months, but it was a 79 Chevette, you know what I mean? So, no, that basically was only, but I love it, man. A lot of my friends have Grand Cherokee, have Jeep Cherokees, and I've always been intrigued by it. I got a nice ski rack for it that's perfect, that fits on there. It's not all, I like the 4Runner, but it was a V8. It was bad on gas. This one's all-wheel drive. I like it, man. I recommend anyone looking for a new car, you go see Bob Circasano up at Sawyer Motors.
Yeah, they'll take care of you.
They'll take care of you up there. They got a lot, and if you're not even looking for a new car, they got plenty of used cars. I mean, he did us right. And not to mention, me and my mother were up there. I mean, we went up there and picked out the stuff, but Mike Kerber took care of all the paperwork. We were literally there for 15 minutes, and then we left. All we did, we went in, we signed the stuff, and while we were signing the stuff, he was taking the stuff out of my old car, putting it into my new one. He took the plates off my old, did all that stuff while we were in there. We were in and out of there in less than 20 minutes. And you get free sodas, and Bob's got freaking every soda and water and juice. You can eat and drink whatever you want when you're at Sawyer Motors. There's juice, soda, candy canes, and not to mention the showroom is not a car showroom.
Not what you would
like
expect.
A museum.
That's actually what my thought was. How much fun did you have walking around the showroom? It's like going to a museum.
Well, the first time we went up there was for the Happy Christmas Fund meeting, and I said to Tony, I was like, "Were we in the right place?" And then when Bob came walking out of a room, I'm like, "Oh, I guess we are." I'm like, dude, this is not a car. Usually you go into a car dealership and there's new cars sitting in the showroom.
No.
To show, this had all Coca-Cola and Good Humor. I mean, he must have sunk a lot of money. I mean, some of that stuff, some of those Coca-Cola booths. I mean, then he has a jukebox in there with the actual records. Yeah. I mean, you're talking. I mean, that stuff is worth some buku loot, man.
It is fun to go there every few months just to see what came in new. Yeah.
And how about that Chris Craft boat that's in the back? That little. I mean, a friend of ours has a house up in Lake George. That thing would look perfect in the great room, dude. Because they have a Chris Craft boat. Yeah. I'm like, oh man. They would love that thing.
Beautiful.
That is cool, man. Yeah, he's got some really good stuff. And if you look around, you gotta look carefully because some of the salespeople, like his daughter, I don't know if that's his daughter. Some of them are sitting at Coca-Cola desks. Mm-hmm. That's their desk. Mm-hmm. Their sales desk. I'm like, oh, there's a salesman sitting over there. I didn't know if it was a mannequin or if it was a real person. I was shocked, man. I was like, oh, that's his daughter. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi.
So Bob, if you are listening and you want to give us a jingle and maybe update us on how your supply chain of vehicles are. I see over at North Street, it
looks a little bit better.
It looks a little bit better over there. You got, looks like 2 or 3 loads in on the car carriers. So if you are listening, Bob, and if you want to give us a call, we do not have a guest on the 7:35 time slot. So our listeners and viewers, we would love to hear from you. You don't want to listen to Fred and I babble the entire time. 331-9255 is our call-in number on this chilly Wednesday morning.
It feels like winter finally.
It certainly does. And, of course, it's been so mild, it took a little bit to set in. It's
yeah.
I mean, it's going for the middle of January.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
Really hard to believe.
It's hard to believe. But, I mean, I was looking at a little after 7 o'clock when just a few weeks ago, it was black looking through that window.
Mm-hmm.
And it was...
Yeah, we got some daylight out there today.
Daylight.
I mean, we shouldn't get too used to it. I mean, today 36. Tonight, only 25, so that's good because last night it was chilly. Tomorrow, 41. So that's nice. That's definitely a Fred Costello shorts day.
Yep, I'm wearing shorts tomorrow.
Okay, and then Thursday night, 27. Friday 32, so that's cool. But then Friday night -1.
Yeah, look at the weekend.
Yeah, Saturday 16, Saturday night -3, Sunday 23. That's not too bad. And then Monday at 34, Tuesday 30. But remember, these are you should. Someone said we were supposed to get a lot of snow Sunday into Monday.
Greg just said that. We
You
have
did.
a
I
storm
heard that.
coming
I
through.
heard that this morning when I went to go get the papers at Raj's.
Well, we're missing the first one simply because of that high pressure that's bringing all the cold air in. And,
Listen, good. I do not want as long as they get hit up in the mountains, like we said,
There's,
mild winters downtown, down in the valleys. I don't want to shovel.
But right now, the jury's out for Sunday night and Monday because there's another one on its heels, and it just whoever wins out the battle, either the high pressure system,
either
or
the cold or the warm,
or the storm, off the coast. But Monday.
And where
is
are these
supposed
storms
to-
coming from? The Midwest.
They're coming across the country, and then that one is supposed to, similar to the nor'easter that's for Saturday, but that's definitely gonna miss us because of that high pressure system. And
When they
that-
come across-
that's why it's going to get so cold over the weekend. That storm's going to go by up to Nova Scotia, and it's going to pull in some real bitter air. That could be the coldest air we've had in 3-4 years.
really.
Yeah.
So the air behind is going to
I don't know,
pull all that Arctic down for us.
I don't know. My -1 Saturday night is pretty cold.
That's pretty cold, yeah.
Or Friday night is.
I might not wear shorts Saturday.
It would have been nice to have a few inches of snow cover because the frost,
the frost.
I can just imagine the frost is just flying in the ground.
Yeah, that's true.
That's we've come to a halt right now with the excavation on the relocating Court Drive and Albert stop with not that there's a lot more he has to do with the pickleball courts. So one thing it is, a lot of winters. There's times where the frost doesn't penetrate, but I wouldn't be.
Yeah, but the ground, I know your point. The ground being unprotected right now.
Yeah,
The frost is going to go straight in.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised there's not 8-10 inches of frost in the ground right now.
That quickly? In a couple days, we'll get that much frost?
Maybe not 10, but I bet you I wouldn't be a bit surprised 8 inches.
The moisture
I
matters
mean,
too, though,
yeah.
right?
When it
'Cause
gets
that
this
sucks it
cold,
down.
when it gets this cold and there's no snow on the ground, it'll
Go
it'll
straight in.
penetrate it pretty fast. Yeah. And also, when there's no snow on the ground and it gets this cold, it messes up the 9:20 a.m. signal. So for all you listeners out there, make sure you're listening to 92.5 FM because it probably doesn't sound that crystal clear right now on 9:20 a.m. because those lines in the ground are probably 60, 70 years old. They haven't been maintained, and every winter we have this problem with people trying to listen to 9:20 a.m. So if you are listening to 9:20 a.m. right now and you're having a hard time listening, please listen to 92.5 FM. Yeah. Why don't we go to a break?
Let's go to break.
Yeah.
And I'll get a refill.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
There was this one time I went snorkeling in the Caribbean when I was a kid. It really just blew my mind. We saw the most beautiful corals. I remember thinking they were waving at us as they moved with the ocean. And then there were all these amazing fish. I'll never forget it. It completely changed the way I look at the ocean.
Most of us have a memory of being in nature we'll never forget. Let's protect the world's natural places so more memories can be made for generations to come. Visit worldwildlife.org.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Thank you, Lawrence, and welcome back, viewers and listeners who have been with us. Those just joining us, welcome. 331-9255 is our call-in number. In the studio here with me is Fred Costello, supervisor from the town of Saugerties. And as I mentioned before we went to the break, and for those who may just be tuning in, we do not have a guest in this half hour, so rather than listening to Fred and I babble around, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Whatever you'd like to talk about, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We do have some announcements.
We didn't do any housekeeping yet today.
I want to kick that off?
Sure. We'll start with, please include the following event with your calendar. The Kingston Manicure and Damacure Inc. is a 501(c)(3). They are going to host a Winter Worst Fest Takeout on Saturday, January 22nd, 2022, from 12 noon to 1:30 p.m. The location will be at their facility, 37 Greenkill Avenue in Kingston, and the lunch will include a wurst platter with 2 wursts for $15, a wurst platter with 1 wurst, $13, and it'll be a choice of a bratwurst, a weisswurst, or a knackwurst. An extra wurst would be $3. Both platters include sauerkraut, mashed potato, dinner roll, and dessert. Order and various soda would be $1 extra. Orders and payment are required by January 12th, which is sneaking, and they will accept checks and credit cards. So if you want to make an order, call Mary Ann at 845-546-3534. You want to do these, or you want to let Cam talk? We can have Cam first. Yeah, let's do Cam.
Go ahead, Cam. You're on.
Hey, good morning, guys. What's going on?
Hey, Cam. How you been?
Hey, I just wanted to say there's one little bit of a silver lining to this really cold temperature with no snow on the ground. It kills ticks and mosquito larvae.
Oh,
so,
that's true.
That's one good thing because, we all know how bad tick-borne diseases are.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So that's good. Cold without snow, high mortality for those kind of folks. So that's good.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. How about the little gnats that were getting all the deer in the fall? Did they die as well? I hope.
Oh yeah, they died in the first frost.
Are those the ones that were killing the deer?
Yeah.
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 I haven't seen a deer in my mom's backyard in like months.
Yeah, they're not around.
Mortality in certain areas was like 80%. I'm guessing. Huge deer die-offs.
Yeah,
we went to that giant cowboy game we were just talking about, Greg. A guy that was parked next to us actually had some venison, and we got to eat some venison. That's probably the only venison I'll probably eat all year.
Yeah, he was down from Rome, New York, and they didn't have
that's
that
right.
Up there.
Good memory,
that wasting disease is only around here. Weird.
Yeah, it was odd. If you go up into the mountains at a certain point out by Delhi, they didn't suffer it either. But
yeah,
us down in the valley, it devastated the deer herd. It's really sad.
Big time, yes. Pretty sad. But the deer population was super high artificially, because of less hunting, more of these land restrictions. The suburbs, that's the deer you see in neighborhoods is unnaturally high. The normal carrying capacity of this environment doesn't sustain that. So it could be down to more natural levels, but who knows?
So ironically, though, Cam, it's funny because the deer herd has absolutely been devastated. We haven't really seen the deer, but there are still some around. There's an arborvitae at the corner of our property that my wife loves, and the deer just bite at that thing all season.
So they must have made it.
There's a couple around.
Yeah. There used to be about at least a baker's dozen in Hillside Acres. I think they all got it because
I don't see many at all.
Yeah, I don't see any of them running around. There used to be quite a few in Hillside Acres. I don't see any of them.
Cool. All right, I got to go. I'm driving. I got to go. So,
all right, buddy. See you, Cam. Yeah, appreciate you calling in. Thank you.
Yeah, the tick thing still blows me away. When we were kids, we grew up playing in the woods in the tall grass.
Heck yeah! I used to play in the leaves all the time.
Yeah, and I remember
rolling around in the leaves and
Yeah, actually, the biggest problem that the leaves used to give me when I was a kid was asthma. Had nothing to do with ticks.
Yep. And, being a parent and my daughter was small and her friends would play, we would play hide and seek. They call it manhunt. But we would go hide in the woods. And we would, no, you can't do that because you're scared. Yeah. Yeah, we're old, man. Well, I'm older than you. But,
I'm playing with you.
It's just different.
We've got the Empire State Winter Games Torch Relay that'll be making a stop on its trek from the city up to Lake Placid in Sorgetes on January the 31st. And there is going to be a parade associated with the event. Parade lineup will begin at 4:30. All marchers will proceed to Small World Avenue Extension at 4:45. 5 p.m. the parade kicks off. It swings through the business district and then back into the complex, ends at the rink at approximately 5:45 p.m., where at 6 p.m. there'll be an ice ceremony, and the torch will then get relayed off to the next individual. You're more than welcome, the public, to take photos with the youth that will be participating from not only Sorgetes, but the Sorgetes area, Kingston, Catskill, across the river that have qualified and will be going to the Winter Games in Lake Placid. Points of contact for the parade: Jackie DeWitt, 845-532-4584. You could also email at jacmhowe@gmail.com. I'll repeat Jackie DeWitt's number again, 845-532-4584. You can also reach out to Amy Luke at 845-532-3259, 845-532-3259. So again, that's the Empire State Winter Games Torch Relay and Parade, January 31st.
All right, and I have an announcement I'm happy to make. We have a press release. After a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic, the Sorgetes Sports Hall of Fame will resume their traditional honoring of those who have made a significant impact in Sorgetes sports history. At the Sports Hall of Fame enters its 59th year of existence in 2022, the induction banquet will take place on Saturday, April 9th. Doors will open at 5 p.m. with a cocktail and greeting hour from 5:30 to 6:30, followed by a dinner and induction ceremonies at 6:30 p.m. at Diamond Mills, 25 South Partition Street in Sorgetes, New York. Our 2022 inductees from 2 years ago include Pat Caffrey, Jay Dodig, and Mark Herb, along with Steve Ener Martin and Jimmy Spears posthumously. All are invited to come out and celebrate the achievements of this year's inductees and be part of this great Sorgetes institution and tradition. A fun and memorable evening is guaranteed. Tickets for the April 9th banquet are available by contacting Mike Hasenbach at yahoo.com or 914-388-2348. The ticket price is $30. Be sure to reserve your tickets early or visit our Facebook page at Sorgetes Sports Hall of Fame. For more details on tickets and payment options, you can contact Greg Chorvas at...
not me, Mike Hasenbach.
You're on there, though. It doesn't say Mike. Oh, there it is, Mike Hasenbach.
It's not me.
Okay. All right, so keep it with Mike, 388-2348.
And this is very nice, very, very nice. I think this is the first time they surpassed the $2 million mark with their match. But in all the Stewart's shops that was raised over the holiday season, this is all the Stewart shops, $1,007,879. The total with the Stewart's match, $2,015,758.
Wow, congratulations to them.
Congratulations to them, yes, absolutely. Customers in the Main Street Stewart's gave almost $3,000, $2,998.21.
What a nice achievement.
Yes.
So folks who are starting their morning commute, it looks like there's a fire. Did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
It looks like there's a potential structure fire on Partition Street, so that may impede traffic.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So be careful or just be thoughtful. If you can avoid Partition Street this morning, you're better off. The season, people have to be careful with chimneys and space heaters. When it's cold like this, those problems tend to surface. And I know there was an unfortunate loss of an apartment complex near me, and that was attributed to a space heater. And they have a place, but they could be very, very dangerous.
Well, that's what they're attributing to that devastating, terrible fire in the Bronx.
Space heater.
Where I believe it was a total of 17 that were killed.
Doesn't that seem impossible this day and age for something to be that tragic?
Well, supposedly a door that was supposed to close didn't close, and it wasn't the flames, it was the smoke. And I'm just, you just got to wonder, why was the smoke so toxic to begin with? Or was the smoke of that intensity that they suffocated? And they just recently, I heard this morning, the youngest that passed away was a 2-year-old girl, a 2-year-old baby.
Yes.
And then one family, 5 members of one family.
All passed?
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, that
was a space heater. So you got to be very, very careful with those, and also where you use them. And a lot of the newer ones, and of course we don't know if this was an older one, if they tip or anything, they automatically shut off.
If you have an old one, throw it away.
Yeah.
They're not worth it.
No, they're not worth it, and they're. It's very, very obvious in the case in Glasgow, in the case in the Bronx. It was probably an old, antiquated space heater.
It was. I worry when you can see the heating element. The ones that you buy for supplemental heat, those oil-filled
radiators.
Yeah. I feel a little bit better with those, but the ones where
those I feel are one of the safest temporary electric heating units.
I agree.
Simply because there is no open flame.
Yep. And you don't see that red hot element creating heat. When I see those, I cringe.
Yeah. So anyway, jumping back to Stewart's, great job by Stewart's, to match what their customers gave, over $1 million. It's phenomenal. And that's why every opportunity I get to patronize Stewart's, including every Wednesday morning.
Yeah, we're drinking their coffee.
A box of coffee. I do so from Stewart's.
Yeah, they do a nice job. They've been a staple in Saugerties forever.
Yeah, I generally buy gas at the Stewart's across from the Thruway Interchange, Saugerties East. Years ago, they used to have pumps on Main Street. And I couldn't believe they've took those pumps out because that store did not do the volume, and yet there always seemed to be cars at the pump. Because again, I would fuel up. I would fuel up there.
I'm surprised too, because that is the only place to get fuel in the village.
Yeah.
If you live there, you have to go out one way or the other to get some fuel. Curious. We did. I know there was a Stewart store down in my neck of the woods by Glasgow, and that store was a staple. There was a morning crew that would hang out in the booth, and there was a mid-afternoon crew and an evening crew. And, those folks were always fun to talk to. They were always kicking around. A lot of great conversations if you had the time to stay for a little while. And it had a really nice culture about it, and it was so convenient,
Yeah.
And that was back when you could fill the truck and then go inside and pay. Now, if you don't have a credit card to go in first, that pump will not turn on.
No, it will not. And that store completely closed.
Yeah. Well, growing up, my family, my dad and my uncle had gas pumps, and there was a gas pumping station as part of the plaza, and Jim's gas station, Jim the Turk had the mobile station. There was a number, and then there was another gas station just down from us by the Barker family. But, gas is such a tough business. And as it changed and evolved, the demand for gas stations changed, and you saw a lot of places go out of the gas business. And I remember the DEC came out with new regulations, and it was very common practice to have steel tanks in the ground. and those tanks would rust over time. So there was a mandate that everybody had to upgrade by a certain time, and the cleanups that went along with that were costly and extensive. And I think the cost to reinvest in the pumping systems was prohibitive for a lot of small operators. I know my dad and my uncle at the time made the decision that, for the small margin you could make on selling a gallon of gas, it would really not be, it didn't justify the investment to reinstall all that equipment, so we just got out of it. And I think that was something that happened to a lot of small operators. And, the trend towards convenience stores where the gas was just a reason to stop and buy coffee and a bagel or whatever you're getting in the morning. Interesting how it changed.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, though. It makes a lot of sense. And, of course, with all the regulations and the stipulations, those come with a price tag.
They do come with a price tag, yeah.
And, some of those smaller ones just couldn't survive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually implemented some zoning a long time ago now, but they put a minimum setback between gas stations because otherwise they would all kind of cluster in one place. And, and there's pretty much nothing that looks worse than abandoned gas station. So we were trying to get ahead of the market trend a little bit. And it worked to a degree. I think there's a nice disbursement to serve the neighborhoods now. There's 3 opportunities along the strip by me. And it works. It definitely works. And even in the village, I think things stabilized. The Sunoco by Town Hall, the mobile station out by the Thruway Gate, Stewart's, and then the big Speedway, and then the other Sunoco. So there's quite a few opportunities on that side of town. But it's a curious business, difficult. Back, I can remember, and I like talking to Greg Helsmore about this. He entered the gas business when branding was very important. So he was a Texaco representative. And those stations were competitive to have those distribution centers. So Mobil, Texaco, Exxon, they all wanted market share in communities, and they would have partners in the gas stations that they would be the exclusive distributor for those fuels. And back then, the branding mattered because people wanted Mobil gas or Texaco gas or Exxon or one of the others. And that trend has expired. We feel confident that if we go to a pump, we're not too worried about what brand it is. I don't think we even know if you go to Quick Check what brand fuel is in we don't care.
Right.
It became that much of a commodity. So it's a kind of interesting little spin-off, too.
I wonder what fuel they do have. It's probably
I think they can do contracts off the rack. The refining has become so good that those, when Exxon came out with their processes, it mattered. And nowadays, everybody is that good at it. So actually Stewart's is the one that's notable because a lot of folks with small engines like to buy their low-grade gas because it doesn't have ethanol in it. And that's generally more stable, especially over the winter months.
Right.
And less corrosive on the rubber lines and all of that. But other than them, I don't know of any disparity between brands at all.
That's interesting. I don't know. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So what else we got going on?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
A little bit of that. Huh?
We actually have. I reached out to you during the meeting. We are progressing nicely to rebuild the Sargreaves Animal Shelter, and
it's good to see that moving.
Yeah, so I think as we're talking and not having a guest this morning, it would have been a perfect opportunity to have Adele come on.
We always think of these things after the fact.
I know, we never write it down. But Adele, Ellie, Morgan, Shaylin, that they've really dedicated themselves to seeing this new shelter come to bear. And we have on hand about a little over $1.9 million to build the new facility. The new facility is projected to cost somewhere around 2.3. Their fundraising efforts are continuing, so if anybody's interested and wants to support it, if you go online, they have their own website, and you can make contributions and pledges there. There's a lot of really great naming opportunities for the new building. So if you're interested, go on there and look, and you don't have to do that. You can buy a brick for your family and be a part of something that's going to be pretty special. That's progressing now, and we are fairly optimistic that we're going to go out to bid for that this year. And the last meeting we had was, if it had a different feeling about it, because we've all shared an optimism that we can do this. But I think we all quietly acknowledge that this is a tall mountain to climb, but we're getting there, and you can see the top, and it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is going to be. It's going to be very, very exciting.
Yeah. I think it's worth
long overdue.
Long overdue. The facility we have is less than adequate. We adopt out historically about 300 animals per year, and that was largely because we have such a great network of folks who can foster mostly cats on our behalf. But with the new facility, we expect that to rise quickly above 500, and there's a synergy at about 500 for shelters to be successful. The overhead for many of the things at 300 is a little bit steep, but at 500, those synergies will take place and it'll be better. Also, we have, we're part of a broader network in Hudson Valley, partnering with the SPCA and other rescue organizations. And New York is kind of ahead of the curve and in many ways setting the bar with regard to spay and neuter programs and things like that. Many states, especially in the southern part of the country, don't have those programs, and they have an abundance of animals, especially puppies and kittens, that are a result of that. So those animals are collected, and when you see storms across the country, those animals that are displaced need help, and we play a significant role in that, and we're going to continue that. What do you have?
So apparently, Bill tried to call in around. He texted me at 7:44.
Okay, I was in the other room, so.
Oh, okay. I did tell him to try now. Oh, geez, we're only got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, it's going quick.
Yeah,
wow.
This morning's flying by, huh?
Yeah.
Kevin should be walking in with some delicious sandwiches in any minute. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, we're excited. Yeah. But so the other thing that's notable, the breadth of support that shelter project is getting. Senator Hinchy was a major supporter. Assemblyman Tagg has been very helpful and a major supporter. We applied for 2 grants, and we were successful with both of those, the largest one being a $500,000 grant, which is substantial. Obviously, there's been a number of folks who just bought a brick or made a small contribution that has those contributions have generated over almost $400,000 at this point. Trying to think the other major, and then we were the beneficiary of an estate that was over $400,000. So we're getting there. It's pretty exciting.
Good.
All right,
We got a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Kingston Community Radio.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are everybody doing today?
We are doing. Don't ask me what, but we're doing.
Hey,
how are you doing?
The American Legion State Commander dinner that was supposed to be held this coming Friday was canceled due to the fact where the department commander canceled all his visitations to the 3rd and 7th districts, which we are in the 3rd district. So that is definitely canceled, and we would have ended up with about 55, 60 people there.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know I'm on an email chain with the emails that come from our commander of our Sorgetes post, and
right.
They had to pull the plug on it, unfortunately.
And I'll tell you what, I'm listening to 9:20 a.m. right now, and it's coming in clear as a bell.
Oh, well, the underground wires
they're not frozen yet.
It must not be cold. Well, that could very well be. That frost isn't down to them yet.
A little statically, then it clears right out, and you have no problems whatsoever.
So what do you generally listen, on the AM side or the FM side?
I always listen on the AM side, and when I'm traveling like for different things down to New Windsor, I listen on the AM side going all the way down 32 to Orange County, and I have no problems until I get to just about the county line.
So that signal must go further to the south than it does to the north, because I know even sometimes up in Sorgetes in some spots, the AM is not good at all. FM is crystal clear.
Right, but no, you guys put out a good signal and stuff. Hey, when Kevin gets in there, ask him about some of those bills on the legislative side and the Senate side that they're going to force people to get the vaccines. They got a whole list of different bills that they talk about instituting this year up at Albany. They're going to force people that they have to get the shots and stuff. And I'm against it because I tell you what, I've got the shots. I know people who don't. It still should be a personal decision. And to actually come out and force people and tell them you have to do this, you have to do that, that's not what this country is.
Well, I respect.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, I respect your opinion, George, but I disagree with it. Simply because with what we're seeing in the hospitals and what we're seeing with people dying, I mean, in New York State alone, it was, I believe, 96% of hospitalizations are unvaccinated that are
yeah.
serious, and it was close to 100%. 98.5% that died were unvaccinated.
Right. I understand that and stuff, and but my point is that was their choice. They know there are adults, and they know the risks that they're taking and stuff. And like myself, I got both shots and stuff because I didn't want to take those risks. And I figure, hey, being in the service and stuff, we were so used to getting shot with everything anyway that it didn't matter.
I'm glad you brought that up, George, because that's true. You know, our country has benefited from vaccination in so many ways. You know, I grew up, nobody I know had polio. And when my dad was growing up, that's not true. There was a lot of instances where folks got polio, and the vaccine is what made that possible. Mumps, measles, many of those really bad diseases were controlled. And one of the recognized but significant factors in our success in the Revolutionary War was that our soldiers were vaccinated from smallpox, and the British soldiers were not. And that gave us a tremendous advantage because large portions of their armament were sick, and our soldiers were not, and we were able to go into battle and be successful. And vaccines have played a significant role in giving us the life we've come to enjoy. And I think it's unfortunate that, in many ways, that this vaccine is being viewed the way it is.
Right. It was politicized right from the start through the presidential election when certain people said that if the vaccine came out when a certain person was president, they were not going to take it. And that was the wrong attitude to take. And if the vaccine did go through the process and stuff, and like I said, I believed in it, so it was my personal choice, and I got it. But, hey, thank you guys for doing what you do, and I know you guys got a hard break coming up. But anybody who bought the raffle tickets from Ulster County American Legion, we go to draw the winners on the 24th because we was going to draw them at the State Commander's Dinner, but that got canceled. So,
all right, cool. Keep our fingers
crossed. So you guys
crossed.
have a great day. Keep up the good work, and hey, I'll be listening for the next hour, so have a great show, you guys.
Okay.
Very good.
See you
Thanks
soon.
for your call.
Thanks, George.
Have an awesome day.
All right, we're going to take a break.
Yeah, let's go to break.
Okay.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Have you ever experienced a wish come true? For a child battling a critical illness, a wish come true can be a turning point. One song, one dance, one game, one adventure, one moment changes everything. Make-A-Wish needs your support to grant the wish of every eligible child. Visit wish.org now to help grant more life-changing wishes. Together, we can transform lives, one wish at a time.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps demonstrate their commitment to defend the American way of life. Since 1775, wherever the mission takes us, we always remember the land we call home. As Marines, we take a stand for our nation, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
A message from the American Migraine Foundation.
It's an absolute nightmare.
There's pain that does not stop.
I feel trapped by migraine.
Migraine is a disabling disease.
I feel like I'm dying. You feel like the world's closing in on you. There's nothing you can do.
It's like you're trapped in your head. There's no escaping it. You can't leave your body.
Don't suffer alone. Make your move against migraine. Visit AmericanMigraineFoundation.org to find help, learn more, and get connected.
January is National Blood Donor Month, and Dunkin' Donuts and the American Red Cross are teaming up to honor blood donors who make a difference. This is Donna Morrissey of the Red Cross. All those who come in to give blood in the month of January at a Red Cross blood drive will receive a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card. It's one way we can say thank you for being a hero to patients in need. Your help is needed now. Please call 1-800-RED-CROSS, visit redcrossblood.org, or download the Blood Donor app to find a blood drive near you. Thank you for making a difference.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from Town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
All right, we're back. There's something wrong with the computer. We'll have to
Something wrong
work
with the
on
computer?
that.
Maybe it's too cold for the computer. Welcome back, listeners and viewers who have been with us the first hour. Those just joining us, 331-9255 is our call-in number. We've got in the studio here Kevin Cahill, our state assemblyman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Fred,
How are you?
fine and dandy on this chilly morning.
Lawrence can tell me if my levels are okay, if I'm close enough to this mic. I'm trying to...
Fred Costello,
Good.
supervisor, Town of Sorgetes, is here with us. And it's time for birthdays. We've got a couple here, it looks like, huh?
Yep, we got a few.
That's good.
So we have, I can't pick it up. We have happy birthday to Rosemary Schultz from your friends at the Town of Ulster Senior Club. And we have a happy birthday to Joy O'Connor from your friends at the Hurley Pearlers. And I think that's it.
Did you read both of them?
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking at this text here and not paying attention.
Right.
Okay, so today's winner of that famous cow pie is Joyce O'Connor.
Good move, yeah.
Very lethargic.
Still fairly early.
Cold.
Or as the cow would say today, yesterday was
Joy
O'Connor,
cold. Congratulations. Happy birthday. When you get the opportunity, get down to Boy's Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston, New York. Pick up that famous cow pie, which is courtesy of Boy's Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. And listeners, viewers, it's so very easy to do. Please send those birthdays in, anniversaries. Email to kcr921@gmail.com. You can postal mail to KCR, P.O. Box 4364, Kingston, New York, 12402. So again, once again, Joy O'Connor, congratulations, happy birthday, and have an awesome day.
All right.
So welcome, Assemblyman.
Okay, so let's go over some of what I listened to in the first hour. We're not going to go back to the car dealership. I think you spent enough time talking about who sits at what desk.
Well, but the impressive part there is it's like a museum.
I got that part.
Okay.
But you guys sat here for 10 minutes and you tried to figure out the name of the guy at the front door, and I'm wondering what the general public needs to know that for. So we're not going back there.
We figured it out. It took a while.
We did spend a little bit too much time on that one.
I will go back and talk about some of the stuff Lawrence was talking about. He specifically mentioned John Guerin, who did defeat me in 1994. Thank you to my good friend Mario Catalano, who ran that campaign and ran a very good one, while I ran a not so good one. And in 1994, I've said this on the air before, but I'll say it again. I called in a few times. I used to appear every couple of weeks like I do now. And I get on the phone. Walter is on the phone with me in December, and he says, "Our current but not very long Assemblyman, Kevin Cahill." And I said, "Well, I'm listening to my current and not very long radio station right now." Threw it back at him. But Walter and I laughed about that many, many times since. And I was out for 4 years. Lawrence said too. I was out for 4 years. I didn't run again in 1996. I was busy running a health plan. And then in 1998, it was my thought that I'd be running against John. But John instead decided to enter a primary for to succeed Charlie Cook. Charlie Cook had stepped down, and John Bonasek was running for that seat.
What year was that John ran for the first time?
John, for the Senate or against me?
No, Bonasek.
Oh, Bonasek?
John ran for the...
No. John Guerin ran against me.
Right. Oh, yeah.
In 1998, John Bonasek ran for the Senate. He was an assemblyman before that.
Right, but not in your district.
No, he was further south.
Oh, but I forgot. John Guerin and John Bonasek primaried each other.
Right.
That was contentious, and they spent a significant amount of time in Saugerties.
Oh, yeah. And so it ended up, I ended up running against a different candidate, and I will never forget St. Patrick's Day, walking up to the wonderful and sweet Katie Matthews, and she said, "You're running against my brother." And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I support your policies. Who should I vote for?" I said, "Your brother."
Good advice. Good advice. Yeah, you can't ruin Thanksgiving for the rest of life.
And Sean and I, of course, became friends. Were friends before and stayed friends afterwards. But more importantly, Richie and I stayed friends. And Rich and I made a vow in the middle of that campaign that 2 weeks after the election, no matter what the outcome was, we'd get together and go to
some
dinner.
Coffee.
And dinner. And we've done it regularly ever since.
Good.
Every couple of weeks. And I did see Sean. Sean, for those of you who are wondering why to keep up with Sean Matthews, he is healthy. He looks great. He had a bout of some serious illness that he got through. He's living in Westchester County. He's now his kids are going to college. Many people will remember Sean going to college. His kids are off to college, and but he's fully healthy again, and he might be an interesting guy to have on sometime to talk about how he got healthy and some of the unconventional therapies he used to get himself well.
Him over the hump.
Yeah. So anyway, and my best goes out to Judy and Richie, who sometimes listen, often not when I'm on, but good people, seriously community minded. That's the part about local elections that I still. I'm so grateful to live in a small town in a community of small towns, and you go through this stuff, and I think about the people that I ran against over the years, and I rarely ran unopposed. I mean, in my many times of running, I think it was twice or three times I was unopposed. But the people I did run against, I was very fond of, and I think they liked me too. Shortly after I got reelected to the Assembly, John Guerin came in and lobbied me on behalf of, I think it was the Catskill Ballet Theater, which I thought was very nice. Of course, there were several other people who I've run against. One or two I've never met. I never met my opponent from last year. To this day, I haven't met him.
That's curious.
It was an election of COVID, so there was not a lot of in-person stuff. I've only met Jack Hayes, who ran against me 4 years ago, once or twice. But by and large, I think about the late Glenn Noonan. He ran against me once, and I was very sad when he passed. But my brother and he became very close on the county legislature. They were had a good relationship. They were, dealing with the county ethics committee, I think it was at the time. And that's the way it goes. And I ran into the first person I ran against. Many years later, Eileen Satile.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I ran into her. I forget where I saw her, but it was fairly maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And there had been a gathering of her family in the community for some reason or another, but it was good to see her. But the list is long. The list is very, very long. So that's one of the interesting things about local politics is even when you run against somebody, sometimes afterwards you stay friends.
And that year that John beat you, that's the only time, right, where you have ran?
No. There was another instance in 1983. The first time I ran, I came in 6th in a field of 5.
See, in 1983, I was probably completely oblivious to politics.
Yeah, so was I. But I was running
for assembly. That was
for the county legislature.
In an at-large district.
5 at-large district seats, and actually, Rich beat me, among others. Adam Gerst beat me. His nephew, I think it is, his grandnephew, is active in Esopus politics now, Jared. But Gene Perry was another Democrat who defeated me, and I think, I want to say Jack Finch, too, and John Dwyer. I think that was the team of people who got elected that year. And I came in just out of the money.
6 out of 5?
6 out of 5, yeah. There were 10 candidates, but I came in a couple hundred votes short. 2 years later, I had identified where I missed those 200 votes and brought them back, and that's when I got started in elective politics.
It was notable to be elected as a Democrat back then, though. There wasn't very many of them in the legislature.
Yeah. When I got on the legislature, I think there were 8 of the 33 members of the legislature were Democratic, and 2 years later, 5 of the 33 were Democratic, and 27 or 28 were Republican. Yeah.
So how did you? It'd be difficult to get something done.
Interestingly, I was able to get a few things done. I passed the Human Rights Commission law. We created the Human Rights Commission. That was with the help of Jerry Benjamin, who voted no, because Jerry wrote his doctoral thesis on the failure of human rights commissions. And he said, Kevin, to be intellectually honest, I couldn't vote for this. He said, but I'm going to help you get it passed. And Jerry was one of
That's a curious academic position. Yeah.
But he absolutely lobbied his colleagues to vote for it, and we got that passed. Another thing that I got passed was we created, and it was kind of innovative at the time, a labor apprenticeship program in Ulster County, so that people coming in would learn the trades, whether it was driving a piece of heavy equipment or operating a piece of heavy equipment in the construction field, and we made it statutory. We set up a plan that then qualified those folks to become journeymen, and we did that in Ulster County. Again, I would not have been able to do it without the help of a Republican. In that case, it was Michael Pagano, the late Michael Pagano, great guy from Marlborough, who was a labor organizer by day and a Republican county legislator by night. So we were able to do that. And then
that I'm surprised didn't preserve as a legacy, though, because especially nowadays, there's so much demand for those services.
Yeah,
and
it's still around. I mean, yeah, the apprenticeship program has been ensconced in state law now.
Okay.
So it exists, and there's a path, and it had 2 purposes. Number one was to train people so that they could get into the trades. The other was to prevent contractors from using apprentices as basically lower paid skilled labor. So people would identify in their contract, and you can have 1 apprentice for every 2 journeymen, and so it made clear that you were getting somebody with skill or you were getting somebody without skill, and it was a good public policy too to make sure that we had the right people doing the jobs. The last area where I felt like I had success, I will be quite honest, I was riding the tail of the wave. And it's interesting that that's the case, because it is also what was largely responsible for my defeat in the Assembly in 1994, and that was criminal justice reform. The Ulster County Republican legislature in the 1980s was in the vanguard of criminal justice reform. Last year, 2 years ago, we heard the callers, we saw the articles and the letters to the editor about bail reform. Ulster County did that in 1986. 1987, they created the Bail Access Fund. we heard about, dangerous criminals on the street, even though the law didn't provide for that. In the late 1980s, Ulster County had intensive supervision probation in lieu of jail. They had community service. They had alternatives to incarceration. They had a whole slew of programs that were available to keep us from having to build a jail. So I became very familiar with those programs. I saw how they actually did work. Just one quick example. A guy gets into a tussle on a Friday night, goes into a bar, has a bar fight, and gets arrested and goes to jail. Maybe if he didn't go to jail that night, if he was just put in the tank for a while and dried out and then went home the next day, things would have been okay. But if he goes into jail and he spends the weekend in jail because he couldn't make the $750 bail, he gets introduced to a whole new element of society and maybe begins a life of crime. And we determined that people that were not incarcerated were less dangerous to society than people who we put behind bars, even if they started out as being the same. That once you put somebody behind bars, you kind of are marking them. So Ulster County had all these great innovative programs, and for a significant period of time, about 15 years, held off the building of the new jail because we were able to keep the capacity going. I convinced the Speaker of the Assembly in 1993, a man named Saul Weprin, to create a statewide task force to implement these policies statewide. And the Republican Party, together with John and his campaign team, put together a whole series of campaign pieces making it look like I was pro-criminal and anti-people. And it worked. It sold. And I'll never forget being at the bus stop when one of my neighbors came up to me and said, "Kevin, I surely would have voted for you, but here we are at the bus stop with our kids, and you put our kids in danger with all your criminal justice policies." And I said, "Wait a second, no, I didn't." She said, "Well, that's what the literature said."
Okay.
So it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you hear George when he called in earlier?
Didn't. No.
So he wanted to, and George, you are, well, I shouldn't say that. Welcome to call back because Lawrence says he's not in the
shopping.
room. Yeah, he's shopping for glasses or he has to load up glasses for the Lions downstairs. We got to take care of the Lions because they just made a substantial $3,000 contribution. We're going to have very, very sophisticated microphones that are going to be
I heard that.
installed here by Lawrence, anticipated somewhere around the middle of March, and that fits very perfectly when I'm back from Florida.
Yeah, you're going to come back and not have to suffer any construction and just...
That is true. So anyway, George wanted to ask if, and I hope I don't botch this up, and jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. Apparently there are some bills that have been introduced for vaccine mandates.
Yes.
And what I didn't get to tell George, because he was against it, and I respect his opinion. I disagree with it, okay, because I think that's the only way we're going to beat this pandemic. And just yesterday, the province of Quebec up in Canada, that entire province now is mandating vaccinations, or there's consequences if you don't. So I'm not familiar with the bills. Personally, myself, I'm glad to hear that.
There are a couple of bills. One bill that people were concerned about was withdrawn, and this was a silly bill to start with, but it had a different purpose. It took on a different meaning in the context of Corona. That was a bill that would have allowed health professionals, health officials to force people into isolation if they were determined to be contagious with a specific disease. The disease at the time was a disease that was coming over from Africa through the airport, and that was what the bill was intended for. It was a very, very serious disease that was almost fatal in almost every case, and that was what the bill was intended for. Health officials didn't agree with that approach. They said it's not really enforceable.
So this wasn't a recent one then?
No, this was not recent, but it gained steam under Corona because now everybody was sick.
I see where you're going.
So the sponsor of that bill, Nick Perry, withdrew that this year. That's no longer out there. Jeff Dinowitz from the Bronx has a bill that mandates vaccinations. Says everybody has to be vaccinated. I don't think that's going to see the light of day. And quite honestly, I think everybody should get vaccinated. I try to convince everybody in my orbit of influence that they should get vaccinated. But if somebody chooses not to get vaccinated, that's their choice, unless and until it creates a public health crisis. And last year, 2 years ago, we had a public health crisis. That is, we had people going into the hospital that were using the resources of the hospital, preventing other people who had necessary health issues from getting them addressed.
Which is happening in New York State right now.
Starting to happen again.
Look what's going on in California.
Right. So I think there is a place for it, but not as a nanny state, not to tell people what they should do for themselves. But we have not only the authority, but the responsibility to maintain our health system. And I think that's the critical piece here, is that we want to maintain our health system. If we get to that point where our health system is at risk, then I think we're going to have to look at bills like that. But right now, I don't think we're at that point yet. So,
and let me just take and add something to what I said, so that there's not a misprojection. There are people out there that their primary doctor, their hematologist, because of either blood disorders or some underlying, they can't get the vaccination. But that is coming from, again, a medical professional. And, I happen to know two people that, actually three, where their primary care physician would not authorize them getting vaccinated without being sent to a hematologist. And then that was in one case. And then two others, their hematologist said that the vaccination would do more harm than good. So now those there with a medical exemption, provided it's legit, there's validity to that exemption, and it comes from a medical professional. Sure. I certainly agree with that.
I want to clarify a few things, because my staff did actually give me notes on this, because George had asked about it 2 weeks ago, apparently. I had forgotten that. The bill of Jeff Dinowitz's that was required mandatory vaccination is for schools, is for children in schools. He would require children going to schools to be vaccinated. Still a little controversial, because I think people feel that the vaccination has not been fully tested on young people, and they're still concerned about it. But I think, science has come around to say, yes, it is, and it's safe for young people, and young people are getting vaccinated. The other bill that was under consideration that George apparently raised issue with was one by Assemblyman Gottfried that would require doctors to report to the health department the vaccination records of any of their patients. I voted for it in committee with the condition that it be amended to make sure that the patient consented and make sure the patient knew they consented. This would have required consent anyway, but sometimes consent can be, unless you say otherwise, I'm going to send this to the health department. This says make sure that they affirmatively agree that it be sent to the health department. So if I'm going to my doctor said, I think it's good health care to send this information to the health department. Do you agree? I'm going to say yes. But if I say no, then he can't send it. And that would be what the Dick Gottfried bill would do. So those are the three big pieces. The Nick Perry bill that would have required medical incarceration for people with specific diseases has been withdrawn. The Jeff Dinowitz bill that mandates vaccinations would be for school children and to go into school. We do have vaccination mandates for school already.
Right.
Just not for COVID. And the third...
But not for the common flu either, though.
No. So this is COVID.
Yeah.
And the third bill, Dick's Gottfried's informed consent bill, that would require physicians to report to the Department of Health with the consent of the patient. Those are the three. So thank you, George. I'm glad we're able to share that information. And who thought way back in 2020 that in 2022 we would still be talking about COVID?
I did not.
The third calendar year.
Yeah, I did
not.
When we were doing...
Here's the other thing. New York City mandated back in, I think, July, where all businesses, all restaurants, all bars, etc., mandatory vaccination.
I think they're the only jurisdiction in New York State with a corporate mandate. Yeah.
Right. So now you've seen where the numbers have dropped by 17% in the city. I don't believe it was the state. I might have mistook this.
It's interesting to watch.
January the 1st.
It's interesting to look around the state because usually what happens, usually the last two times we had peaks and valleys, it started in the metropolitan area, rose. Then it came to the Hudson Valley and Long Island, rose. And the rest of the state was like, we're okay. Then our numbers went down and their numbers skyrocketed. And listen, we're going to go through this. You hear I have a little bit of a head cold right now. Believe me when I tell you, people are paranoid because I was getting on an elevator yesterday and I had a sniffle. And the guy said, "You have a cold and you're at work?" I was like, "Yeah." Yes, because that's what people do. They go to work when they have a cold. If you're not contagious, I had the mask on. I wasn't conveying any disease of any kind. But we are taking more precautions than ever. And that's not a bad thing. I was telling another friend who just returned from a flight, and my sister said this as well, I may never fly on a plane without a mask ever again. It is so nice to get off the plane and not having breathed all that air. I can tell you, it was twice I've flown, 3 times I've flown since COVID started, and wore the mask each time, and I was grateful. I was fine wearing it. One of the flights was 7 hours long, and I just kept the mask on the whole time, except when I was eating. And I landed, and I didn't have my usual, clogged sinuses and feeling like I had all this nasty in my respiratory system.
You think the mask was helpful for that?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm flying Sunday, so I'm going to
mask up.
My sister actually wears two masks when she's on a plane. She doubles up.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. Folks try to protect the N95 with a surgical mask.
Yeah. And what they say is think of it as just a sieve, a filter, and you're stopping some, and if you have 2 on, you're stopping more. And by the way, masks are intended for other people, not just for yourself. You do protect yourself from what you breathe, but more than that, you're protecting other people from exhaling it into the atmosphere.
Well, it was very, very interesting to see, and actually, I feel encouraging news that where they showed the amount of time of protection from a cloth mask from a vaccinated to an unvaccinated person, 27 minutes. A surgical mask, 60 minutes. And N95 or KN95, 25 hours.
Wow.
So obviously there's a huge, huge difference.
We just got a supply of masks and tests. So as a lot of other people have been using it for distribution, and we are right now devising a plan for the distribution of. We don't have enough to do a mass distribution, but we have enough that we can make it useful. And one of the things I'm thinking about is actually bringing them to people's houses who can't get out to these sites. But we got to supply the N95 masks, and this is actually the first time I've had an actual N95 mask in my possession. Up to now, it's been things my sister made out of old scraps of fabric or things I got from from organizations.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
that's funny. Just a quick note, we do have another supply of masks, and we're distributing them over the counter at the town clerk's office. So there's you can go there and pick up 1 per household. We don't have enough to do a mass distribution again. The first time we were issued masks, we did a mass distribution. Greg and his staff helped, and we distributed almost 600 masks in about an hour and 15 minutes, right? That was really impressive. If we had that capacity, we would do the same thing.
Right. We don't have that supply. We don't have that big of a supply, so we have to be kind of very careful about the audience we pick to make sure it's effective. So I thought that, I've been watching these folks and talking to my family members who've been getting in their car and going to the sites where they're handing out tests and where you can get masks. And I thought to myself, there's a bunch of people can't do that.
Yeah.
They just can't do it. And I really had hoped that we were able to do this before the holidays with the senior housing complexes, because the seniors, sometimes they're in isolation in most of the year, but they do see their relatives on the holidays. And I was hoping that they would have had these assets going into the holiday.
That was one of our motivations. We did that distribution right before Christmas, and we thought we were helping people perhaps get together and feel safe because they had the opportunity to test themselves if they felt they were exposed at some level. And I'm proud of it still, Greg. We did such a good job that day.
I tell you, those.
I wish we had
not,
more.
Not bragging about my team, but and there were some volunteers also. So you got to remember the couple of volunteers that we had, and.
Deputy County Executive Mark Ryder stayed with us the whole time.
Yeah.
He came and he helped, and it couldn't have been better. So.
Well, now the thing that we have to urge the public to do, and I know they're getting tired of COVID, but I think it's time for people who have not yet gotten their booster, count me in, to go get their booster. I purposely waited because I had COVID just a few months ago, so I had some natural immunities from that. I wanted to extend it as much as possible, but the time has come for everyone who hasn't gotten the booster to go ahead and get it. You're not going to keep yourself from getting sick, but you are going to keep yourself from getting seriously ill and have a life-threatening disease. And that's the object here. So SUNY New Paltz has become a mass testing site. They will also be, I've been advised that they will also be providing there'll be a booster site there as well, mostly for the students, but also I think the community can participate there as well. The county has reignited their sites, and they're starting to do it again. So they're available. And, of course, there's still the drugstores that you can try to find. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. But it's out there. It's available for us. Now we have to get the rest of the world vaccinated, too.
So I know I've observed, and I have a hunch that this is more widespread than we're willing to acknowledge. Because home test kits are available, there's a high percentage of folks that have tested positive that don't report.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but there's also a higher level of reporting than ever before, and that's why you hear numbers like 50% have been infected in New York City.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
It will be. I hear what you're saying, that the home tests are not reported. I've used both. I've used the home test for my own edification, and I still do on a regular basis. I can tell you that when I got diagnosed, when I thought I had COVID, and I wasn't positive about it, and then I went for a test and I found out, yes, I did have COVID. I immediately sat in the car, but went store to store to store to go get test kits back in September. I wound up in Pine Plains. That's where I ended up.
Trying to locate a test kit?
Yeah, that's where I got test kits, and I kept a supply of them, and then over the course, and I didn't have a lot. I think I got 6 test kits. And over the course of the last several months, my family members have been calling me up one by one to get the tests.
It's almost impossible not to be exposed.
First of all, in regards to your flying thing, I'm sorry that you feel exposed when you fly and your sister wears 2 masks, but I've flown 21 times since COVID, going back to even before we knew there was COVID. And personally, I feel more at ease on the plane because first, before you get on the plane, they take all the air that was in there prior to getting on the air.
I got
They pump so much HEPA air through that airplane and in the airport that I don't even feel that you actually need a mask, and you could actually smell it in the air. Everybody in the whole airport, whether it's workers, the people serving you the food, the people flying the plane, everybody has a mask on. So I feel more safe.
Which should be the case.
Yeah, I feel more safe once I step into Albany Airport, and then until I actually feel more scared when I get onto the curb in Fort Lauderdale than when I'm in the airport and in the whole system. I don't feel like there's a bit of COVID anywhere.
Well, you raise an interesting point because that's exactly why airports and airplanes are a high-risk place, not because of the protocols that they follow. They are doing those protocols for a reason. But we are coming and going from places where it is less safe. And we go to places, you're right. I mean, I haven't been to Fort Lauderdale, but I've been to other places where you get off the plane and suddenly you feel like, what happened? I thought we were in the middle of a pandemic. How come nobody's wearing masks?
Florida has been the last 3 places that I've been to by airplane, and let's face it, they don't wear masks down there. I mean, their vaccination rate is not as high as New York's. It's close, but it's not as high. But, they're not on a state of emergency. They don't, they're not, heck, I don't even know if you have to wear a face mask into Publix down there anymore. I haven't been there since, since the Dolphin game. But when me and Cameron went down there for the Dolphin game, I'm like, God, no one's wearing a mask down here. Like, no one's. I didn't have a problem with it, but at the same time, I took a test before I went home just to make sure. Obviously, I was negative. But before we had our vaccines, before I left New York, I had to take a test. Before I came back to New York, I had to take a test. I was taking a test a lot, and I'm telling you, I felt more safe in that airport with all the stuff that all the protocols, all the things that they were doing. And people were like, "Oh, how can you fly? You're going to get sick." I'm like, actually, I feel more safe in the airport than I do anywhere else.
I was at a meeting.
Where I was more scared about getting COVID or getting sick was being Hannaford. And I'm not putting it on Hannaford. Would be actually a grocery store. Yeah. I was more worried about getting sick. I would go to Giant games without a mask on. I went to the track I went to Saratoga 5 times this summer. Kids sneezing on me. I was like, oh my God, I gotta go home and get a test. I'm just saying, no, I was fine. But you go to an airport, and yes, you are congested. There's a lot of
it's unlike Saratoga, unlike the Meadowlands. It's not an outdoor setting either. It's interior.
Right, it's interior. Right.
So
in the Meadowlands of Saratoga, you might sneeze, and the wind might take it away.
I was at a meeting of people from all over the country, and my colleague that I was there with from New York was wearing a mask. I was wearing a mask, and we looked across the room, and we saw somebody else wearing a mask, and nobody else was wearing masks. So we went up to that person. We said, "Where in New York are you from?"
Stand out a little bit,
because that was how we identified them. And sure enough, they were from the Northeast. They were Massachusetts, actually. But there's a different culture everywhere, and I think that's one of the risks with flight and airports and everything else. And the reason that the extraordinary precautions are taken is because you're coming from places that don't have the same protocols. One of the countries I just came from was in the news 2 weeks later for forged COVID certificates and forged tests. And, if that's the people that were getting on the plane with me, that made me a little nervous.
Yeah,
obviously. You had no hesitation flying to a foreign country?
No. Actually, it's interesting. I went to Rome. I went to Italy over the summer, and I was so impressed with the precautions taking place there. Outside, just like Lawrence described, everybody is free for all. No masks, but you would never know there was a disease, except always in the distance you would see a testing tent, in front of every pharmacy, in front of every railroad station. Inside, uniformly, everybody wore masks, and every single person got checked at the door to any attraction, any place where there was going to be a concentration of people. And you had to show your green pass in the case of European people, or your COVID card in the case of Americans and other countries, or you weren't allowed in. And so I was really impressed with that. And sometimes, not always, when we walked into restaurants, people asked us for the cards. Not always. We did a lot of dining outside, but we were asked for our cards everywhere. Interestingly, when I went to the Ukraine in October, none of that.
Oh. I will say this, I've been to the city since August 4 times, and every indoor facility that I went to, they were checking vaccinations. And if you didn't have a vaccination, on your phone or a card, they turned you away.
Well, let's segue to a little bit of what's going on in Albany, and the Capitol building is theoretically open to the public. You have to prove vaccination and or a recent test to get in, a test within a certain period of time. So it's keeping most people away. The Legislative Office building is closed to the public. So we also have a 50-person limit in the Assembly chamber, so the Assembly can't actually gather in the chamber. So we go through this little ritual. We get to Albany. We go swipe in our card at the Capitol. We go back to our offices, and they send us a link, and we sit there on a Zoom, and that's how we attend.
That's how you attend business?
Yeah. So we have to be in Albany. We have to be at our desks, but we can't be on the floor unless we're debating. So that's kind of the way it is right now. I cannot wait for those days when the public is allowed back in the building and we can interact with them again. I mean, I miss that.
Different energy, right?
Yeah. And
one of the things
they deserve to have the opportunity to participate in the process.
Yeah.
There have been a couple protests. There was a housing protest yesterday. The day of the governor's State of the State address, there was a anti-vax protest that took place. They had a large crowd that dwindled very quickly. The housing demonstration yesterday was not very big, but that's where the demonstrations are taking place, out in the 14-degree weather outside instead of in
On the
halls
steps.
of the Capitol. Oh, just all over the place
All
in
over.
the park. Yeah, yeah. So the governor gave her State of the State, and it was very, very well received. I find it interesting. The biggest takeaway that a lot of people had from it is that she supports the continuation or the renewal of takeout beverages for restaurants. There was so much else in the speech. You know, she wants to provide college to people behind bars. That was pretty controversial, but people wanted to talk about drinks from restaurants, which is fine. That's what they want to talk about. She touched on the issue of climate. I don't know that she went far enough on climate. We still have to deal with a lot of that this year, but at least she acknowledged it, and it looks like we're going to be dealing with that. There were a number of other very important issues that she talked about, and I'll be honest with you, I have not been this optimistic about New York State government in a very, very long time. I think she's doing a great job, and I think we're poised for a very productive and very meaningful year in Albany to get a lot of stuff done.
Good. I think I'll go back to some of the climate stuff. So our experience, we wanted to be ambitious and try to create opportunities to reduce the carbon footprint of the town's consumption. And we didn't really understand how we were going to get there, what it was going to look like. But honestly, almost every one of the initiatives we've undertaken have saved us money. And Greg and I are celebrating the announcement that we got a grant to replace the chiller at the ice rink. That is going to dramatically reduce the carbon footprint of the town, but it's going to save us a fortune in energy bills and water treatment.
I've been preaching this gospel for a while that conserving energy is the only real way that we can stop doing what we're doing. We could put all the solar panels up that we want. We could put all the windmills up. We could build more hydroelectric power facilities. But as long as we keep using power the way we do, we're going to continue to have a bigger footprint than we should. The one way to do away with that, to eliminate it, is to reduce our consumption. But reducing your consumption does not necessarily mean altering your lifestyle in any negative way. It could mean altering your lifestyle in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. And in this case, with the chiller, we will be. Yeah. In a very positive way.
You're gonna have a more reliable system that's going to use less energy, and you'll be able to probably use it more than you did in the past, and probably will have lower maintenance costs and everything else associated with it. Think about when you weatherize your house. You're sitting in your house, and in the first cold day of winter shows up, and you feel this draft coming in. Well, if you had caulked your windows and put your storms up, or put your thermal windows up, and made sure your doors were properly sealed, you wouldn't feel that, and your house would be more comfortable that day. Same is true in the summer. If you have your systems fully tuned up and ready to go, you're going to be more comfortable.
Easier,
Yeah. Replacing a burner in a furnace. That's probably one of the biggest things people should look into. You don't have to replace your whole heating system, but take a look at your burner. If it's more than 10 or 15 years old, it's probably not terribly efficient.
Yeah.
And if it's not efficient, that means it's not working to make you comfortable all the time. You can replace it with a much more efficient burner, a much more efficient system that will actually make your house and your home and your the people in your house much more comfortable. And most of the time, you can do it at no additional cost to yourself. You can get a loan through the utility, Central Hudson, that you can pay for over time, and you pay for it with your energy savings, so your day-to-day costs stay exactly the same. Or you can pay for it and see your energy costs go down.
So interesting, one of the programs we initiated was to replace all the sodium vapor streetlights with LED. That went almost entirely unnoticed. I think I got 2 complaints that folks felt that the LED was a harsher light. Yeah, but that's done, and it was a 2-year payback. So this year, on your bill, you'll see, depending on the lighting district, as much as a 22% decrease in the energy tariff. Wow.
And a different kind of light. It's a more directed light.
Yeah.
The LED light.
It doesn't spray quite as much.
Yeah. And that's very important, too. So there's a lot of things we can do, and I hope people continue to do them. And we don't, we saw a big rise in the cost of energy over the past couple of months, and we're starting to see it subside. I hope people don't lose their interest in getting to that conservative level.
No, I think so. There's perhaps a silver lining because we don't have to suffer for that fluctuation. There's a billing crisis happening as well.
That's a separate issue.
Yeah, it's a separate issue. But there was the energy spike, and we don't have to suffer that energy spike. Something Greg did many years ago was he would contract for our energy because state legislation enabled that. And now in Sorority, there's three options. As a consumer, you can be passive and just accept whatever bill or whatever choice Central Hudson makes on our behalf, or you can be part of the CCA program and accept the negotiation that occurred to do that, which, by the way, right now is cheaper than what's fluctuating. Or you can go into the energy market and secure your own energy supply. So, as consumers, we have choice now. I think that's a great thing, and I think that's underused. And people, I think this recent spike has made people at least take a look and pay a little bit of attention. But we do have choices.
Yeah. We have a long way to go in making sure that consumers know what they're paying for with energy. But in particular, the one place where you can still save. You can't save on delivery. I mean, you pay for the delivery no matter what.
Yes.
But you can save on the commodity.
Yes.
And right now, my commodity costs less than my delivery. So
I think that's true for all of ours too.
So, but there's I think there's a renewed interest in energy conservation, a renewed interest in giving us opportunities. You hear in the federal Build Back Better package, there's major incentives to make it easier to buy electric vehicles. There's some discussion, as the governor indicated, she wants to do the same thing in the state to make it more likely, if we're going to get to the point we need to get to with the fleet capacity that we want to achieve 50% by a certain date. We have a long way to go. We're about 1.5% right now. So,
yeah, but if we have a fair conversation about it, there's a path to get there, for sure. And
there sure is.
I'm pleasantly surprised that the efforts that we've made are fruitful and they're working, and it's a rare opportunity where you can have your cake and eat it too. Yeah. And that legacy of savings is real, and it happens every month, which is pretty extraordinary.
Some of my colleagues have rallied against one of the bills that I've introduced, and they're calling it a 55-cent a gallon tax on gasoline. It's not. It's a carbon tax. It's a tax on the emission of carbon into the atmosphere that we all end up paying for anyway. It just says if you're the emitter, you pay for it up front instead of asking us all to pay for it at the back end, which we are doing right now. And it's not 55 cents a gallon. It is proven time and again that there is no relationship to the taxes that are imposed on gasoline and the price of gasoline. The tax has not been put in place. The carbon tax has not been put in place. But gasoline rose over $1 since I introduced the bill. Had nothing to do with it. We've seen gasoline fluctuate from $4 down to almost $1.50 with the same level of taxation that we've had since the 1990s. So people should understand that if we do charge a fee for emitting carbon, and we have those resources to do the other things we need to do, we can get to that carbon-free future, we can get to that carbon-neutral future much sooner, have a much more comfortable and better lifestyle, and have the resources necessary to pay for those things that will allow us to make that transition and will help us all.
To the degree that we can plan for it, we're better off than just running out and having to catch up later. And I'm optimistic, though, because you can see there's so many things underfoot that are allowing the electric car conversation by itself defines it. If we had that conversation 5 years ago, it felt like pie in the sky. Now every major automaker that's thinking they're going to have a future in the auto business is transitioning to some type of alternative fuel. And and
it used to be, my biggest issue with giving big breaks for electric vehicles was it was giving money to people who had money. Because you weren't buying a new car unless you had money. You weren't buying a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 car unless you had money. But we're getting to the point in the marketplace where there are $20,000 cars that are electric or hybrid. Yeah. And now we're at the market where the regular everyday consumer might actually benefit from these programs. So that's also a positive, and I'm looking forward to seeing us do something there. My colleague Pat Fahey has a bill that would exempt sales tax for electric vehicles. I'm not in support of that because I can't imagine why I would want to. The guy that's going out and buying the $125,000 Tesla or Rivian or whatever doesn't pay sales tax, while the guy down the street who needs a pickup truck for work has to pay sales tax. That doesn't make sense to me.
I agree. That doesn't make any
But
sense.
I would agree that a certain level, that maybe at a certain level, a few dollars should be exempted if you're buying an energy efficient vehicle that gets a certain mileage per gallon, or is hybrid, or is electric, or uses a technology at a certain level, to encourage everybody to participate and to encourage the market to go in that direction. So there's hope, and these are all the things we'll be looking at in the coming days and weeks as the session progresses.
We became a climate smart community, and as we've earned points and met thresholds, we've been able to secure more and more grant funding. So the most recent one was a $10,000 grant, and we're going to try our best to replace one of the specialty police vehicles with an all-electric. And when we submitted the request to do it that way, there was all this excitement on the other side because it looks like we're going to be the first ones to do it if we're successful. And if is a question mark, but we're going to do our best to make that a reality.
Well, for short distance chases, your electric vehicle will be the advantage.
The one to get, yeah.
0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
One of the problems we're encountering is the most expensive version of the vehicle is available, but that's the most expensive one. And this is public money, so we certainly don't want to look like we're buying a luxury car.
Sure.
The ones that would be affordable, so to speak, are not available. And even though the sticker price may say X, the dealers who can get one are putting a premium on them because they're in such high demand. So supply is proving to be a challenge for us to meet this goal.
I think we're going to see that.
What else is new?
What else is new?
We're going to see that all ease as the springtime comes. I think.
I hope you're right. Yeah. I hope you're right. You really do.
Yeah, I do. Sure. Yeah. I think the combination of events that created it is starting to loosen up already. I mean, you have everything from shipping containers being too expensive to production lines being shut down to truckers not being around. All these things converged at once, and one by one they're opening up again. And so I think the supply chain will
find some relief,
will loosen up, and we'll start to see, those things that we're waiting for now will start to show up again. The chip shortage for cars is the big issue, right? That you can't get a car because you can't put the computer in a car. We didn't have that problem 25 years ago, did we?
No.
There were no computers in cars.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, well, I'm being told that the assembly needs me to go check in very shortly. I'll wait. I can leave here at 9 o'clock and still get there in time. But
okay. Yeah.
So
we are hopeful about that EV program. We'll see how it goes. The canine handler who would benefit from this is he's in on it too. He gets it. He's hook, line, and sinker, and he's hopeful. And having him be the advocate for it is great because it can't come top down all the time. There has to be that bottom up.
In other business that we've been dealing with in Albany, separate and apart from the energy issues, separate and apart from the climate issues, and the governor's state of the state, there were a couple of other things that the governor made some mention of expanding telehealth, something I've been working on to try to make sure that we do it in the right way. My biggest concern with advancing in telehealth is that we don't create a circumstance where we gut our community-based health care. It's one thing to say everybody needs access and telehealth is the way to do it. It's another thing to say, well, if we start doing that, maybe we won't have medical practices in our community anymore. We don't want that to happen. So we're trying to strike the right balance there. We'll be dealing with that in our insurance committee this year. The healthcare workforce, we've seen a lot of strain with the workforce over the course of the last couple of years, not just because of COVID, but because of a number of other issues. I think you're going to see us attend to a lot of that. This past Monday, on a totally different subject, we voted down the Independent Redistricting Commission's failure to return appropriate districts for Congress, Senate, and Assembly. They didn't give us a definitive set of maps. They gave us 2 sets of maps. They didn't pick between them. That was not their job. Their job was to send us workable maps, and it didn't work. So we rejected them. We're giving them a second chance. By January 25th, they have to return a new set of maps. If those maps are equally unsatisfactory, we will vote them down, and then our Legislative Redistricting Commission kicks in and starts to draw the maps ourselves.
But that work has to happen in parallel because the clock is ticking.
Sure. Yeah.
Candidate, I mean, with the political calendar, candidates who are intending to run will have to announce shortly.
Yeah.
It's
The
nice to know
Legislative
where-
Redistricting Commission is working right now. They're culling the information that was gathered by the Independent Redistricting Commission and trying to use it to arrive at a more rational solution and then propose that to the legislature in the event that the IRC does not return a legitimate set of maps. And so far they haven't. I mean, I challenge anyone to go on their website and tell me what they mean. I can't figure them out. I described them the other day as, I said, I think some of the commission members brought some blank maps home and just gave their kids finger paints and said, here, go do what you want.
with something.
Yeah. I mean, they're big blobs. They don't even have the political boundaries of communities. Like, you can't tell where Saugerties ends and Greene County begins on the maps. It's very difficult. And they haven't given any verbal explanation. The Benjamin Center in New Paltz took the preliminary set of maps and figured them out and offered a legend to try to tell you what they said. But basically their theory when they were doing that report was these maps are ridiculous. And they are. They split the communities up. They don't have representative communities. So we got our work cut out for us there. And I think Lawrence is going to want to close down this portion.
Yes, we are out of time. State Assemblyman Kevin Cahill, thank you very, very much. Morning just flew by. Fred Costello, Supervisor, Town of Saugerties, thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Most importantly at all, thank you, viewers and listeners. Although I won't be, Fred and the mayor will be right back here, same time, same place, next week.